Okay, this video is to show how to solve each system by substitution. Number one's pretty easy because if you notice they're both solved for y. So all you would have to do is set each equation equal to each other. So I would set the first one, negative 3x minus 3 equals 3x minus 3. Draw my river, and I want all my x's on the left side, so I address the x's first. So on the right hand side, the opposite of a positive 3x will be a negative 3x. So on the right side, this would make it 0, so I just drop down my negative 3. Negative 3x minus 3x would be negative 6x, and I drop down my negative 3. Now I still haven't gotten x solved by itself, so the opposite of a negative 3 on the left side would be I'd add 3 on both sides. This would give me negative 6x equals 0. The opposite of multiply by negative 6 would be to divide by a negative 6 on both sides. And of course, any number that you divide by 0 would be 0. So my x value would be 0. So I have my x value, but I still need to know my y value. And the best way to do that is to take my x value of 0 and plug it into one of these equations up here. So it really doesn't matter, the top one or the bottom one. I'll just choose the bottom one. So I have y equals 3 times x. Well, our x value is 0. Minus 3. Any number times 0 is 0, so this cancels out. So my y value would be negative 3. So my x value is 0, my y value is negative 3. You would write that in point form, 0, negative 3. This would be the answer for number 1. Alright, let's go on to number 7. This one's a little bit more difficult, only because neither equation is solved for a variable. It looks like the bottom one would be easiest to solve for the y because it's all by itself. So I would write negative 7x plus y equals negative 21. Solve for y, the opposite of a negative 7x on the left side would be a positive 7x. Positive 7x. On the left hand side, these 7x's will cancel each other out to make 0. So I got y by itself. Y would equal 7x minus 21. Remember, I always want my x and my y next to the equal sign. So I solved the bottom equation for y equals 7x minus 21. Best way to find a value for x or y is to plug this equation in here in the top equation where the y's at. So I will have negative 2x minus 7. Instead of putting this y in, I'm going to put the value for y that I found, which would be 7x minus 21. Equals negative 6. Now I would just draw my river and solve for x in this case. Over here I have my distributive property. So I drop down my negative 2x. All I did was bring that down. Negative 7 times positive 7 will be a negative 49x. And a negative 7 times a negative 21 would be a positive 147. 47, yeah. And then I bring down my negative 6. Now the commutative property lets me combine my like terms over here. So negative 2 minus 49x would be negative 51x. Bring down my 147 equals negative 6. I need to get rid of that 147 on the left side. So the opposite of a positive 147 will be a negative 147 on both sides. These will now cancel. I'm left with negative 51x equals negative 153. Yeah, 153. So now I still haven't solved for x. So I have negative 51x equals negative 153. Divide both sides by negative 51. And so my x would equal 3. So I know my x value is now 3. To find my y value, I will take this 3 of x and I'm going to put it in the bottom equation. It doesn't matter top or bottom, but the bottom one looks easier because there's a y all by itself. You could put it in either one. Negative 7 times 3 plus y equals negative 21. Just so you guys see, the x value here is 3, so I'm putting it in right here in my bottom equation. Okay, now to solve this, I need to 7 times 3 would be a negative 21 plus y. The opposite of a negative 21 would be a positive 21. Positive 21. Of course, negative 21 plus 21 would be 0, so I just drop my y. Negative 21 plus 21 again would just be a 0. So I found my x value here of 3, and my y value here is 0. So the answer for this one is 3, 0. Now you could always check these. You could always check these to make sure this is the right answer, 3, 0, by simply plugging it in the original expression. So now this is the first equation I had. My answer I got was 3, 0, so this would be my x, this would be my y. So I'm going to put in a 3 here where the x is at, and then I'm going to put a 0 in where the y is at, and then I'm going to solve. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, negative 7 times 0 is 0, so does negative 6 equal negative 6? It sure does, so I know I solved it correctly.